Hello, it's Ted Corliss with News Munchies. Follow us on our website at www.newsmunchies.com. Also look for us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. News Munchies, dedicated to the legalization, medicalization, and reformation of America's marijuana laws. Welcome to News Munchies with Ted Corliss. Today's conversation has to do with the death penalty. Yes, as a proponent of civil liberties associated with the legalization, modernization, and medicalization of cannabis, we also continue to support all efforts to support the human experience in the United States by preserving individual civil liberties. Today, we raise the issue of the death penalty again, and today, very important, to discuss the recent execution of Domineque Ray in Alabama. Why are we talking about Domineque Ray's execution after? Simple. Apparently, Mr. Ray was advised in November 1st of 2018, that his execution would take place in February. But he wasn't told until January 23rd, he was advised that he would not be permitted to have a Muslim imam in the execution chamber with him. Well, why would the prisoner be asking for this? Simple. Under the Alabama execution procedure, you are moved from your holding cell down the hall for your last walk, and then you're introduced into the death chamber. In the death chamber, there is an individual waiting for you who is a Christian pastor. Not any pastor, but a Christian pastor. And that pastor will put his hands over you, say a blessing, and then you are executed. When Mr. Ray was advised in January 23rd specifically, that he was going to be executed, he was told that he would not be permitted to have a cleric of his religious affiliation in the death chamber. Instead, they told him he would receive a blessing from a Christian, but that his imam could sit in the observation area with the other witnesses to the execution. When he discovered this, he waited no more than 5 days on January 28th to file an appeal asking that the execution be stayed, pending his ability to select a Muslim imam to be in the death chamber with him. Now, Alabama told him, no, we will not allow you to do that. We only will permit a Christian into the death chamber, but he files a motion to stay the execution, which goes to the federal appellate court, which we know as the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which, by the way, is not known for its liberal belief system, as you can imagine if Alabama happens to be one of their states, as well as Mississippi, the 11th Circuit found that the prison's procedures violated the Establishment Clause. You remember the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment that says the United States shall not establish any particular religion better than another? Well, the Establishment Clause apparently meant a lot to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals because they pointed out that he had timely raised this issue and that according to their own procedures, they were violating a variety of other civil liberties of Mr. Ray. Well, fortunately for Mr. Ray, that decision then went to the United States Supreme Court. And the United States Supreme Court, on a 5-4 vote, found that his objection to the introduction of a Christian cleric in the death chamber was, quote, untimely, that he had waited too long to raise this issue. So let's put that in context again. He finds out in November that he has a date of execution for February. He is told January 23rd that he's going to be presented with a Christian cleric in the death chamber, which he immediately objects to. Approximately 5 days, he files an appeal that the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals not only finds timely, but finds meritorious and stays the execution. Well, rather than addressing that objection, Alabama took it to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said, no problem, execute him. Mr. Ray was then executed the first week of February, matter over. So my question to you is, if you are an individual that continues to believe that the death penalty should remain in American jurisprudence, I would ask you this. Wouldn't you also believe that if you are going to execute someone who's going to pay the ultimate price for any crime and is going to make himself square with the house again by taking himself and being executed, wouldn't you suspect that you, of all people, would also believe that that should be done according to the Bill of Rights, which includes the First Amendment, which has most of my favorite things in it, including my right to free speech, which brings me here to you today. We continue to believe that the death penalty does not belong in American jurisprudence. That's probably the reason why earlier this week, the governor in California has now stayed all pending executions, more than 700 individuals. They've not really executed anybody since 2005 when they executed Tookie Williams, who shouldn't have been executed anyway. But now California is walking away from it, and so have several other states who are starting to look at the lack of practicality in dealing with the ultimate punishment of death. We continue to recommend to you that you support efforts in the state of Florida or wherever your state is. Here, I would recommend that you reach out to organizations like Floridians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, and that's Mark Elliott at the helm of that amazing organization, doing amazing things to stop the death penalty in the state of Florida. We'll continue to report on these particular issues and support true civil liberties. This is Ted Corliss with News Munchies. Be well. Hello, it's Ted Corliss with News Munchies. Follow us on our website at www.newsmunchies.com. Also look for us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. News Munchies, dedicated to the legalization, medicalization, and reformation of America's marijuana laws.